Thinking about starting a home staging business? If we were to start all over again, this is how we'd do it.
Welcome to Foxy TV episode 74. In this episode, Jake and Phoebe are going to run you guys through how they would start a home staging business if they had to start it all over again, and their recommendation on where you should focus from the very start. So no behind the scenes footage today like we usually cover on Foxy TV. Let's go to Jake, who's going to get the ball rolling.
Alright guys, when you're starting your business or looking to start your business, first you need to sit down, get your business plan sorted, get a website, your logo. Just take some time to get all those things in place before you even think about getting into some work.
Is he serious?
I'm joking. None of that stuff really matters at the start. It will matter, and I'm not saying you forget it altogether, but that's not the most important thing at the beginning. I'm going to throw it over to Phoebe. She's going to talk a bit about how we got started in the early days.
I'm just jumping in here quickly to note that the footage you're about to see was taken at an install we did in Annerley this week. Over to Phoebe.
Alright, so I won our first job after about, it would have been 3 months of phone calls every day. So we were reaching out to about 15 agents every day. In between they're calling Jake, so I had talked to somebody who actually wanted to talk back to me. And then it turned out that the first 5 agents I contacted, we were doing it so that we felt like we needed to give them something in return. So we gave them the opportunity to do an interview and we'd publish it, and then we'd drop back all their social links, all that sort of thing. And so those first 5 agents I actually called, all 5 of them did the interview, and then we ended up going on to do work for all 5 of those agents. So one of those agents was the very first agent, Shannon Harvey, who we did some work for. So that came about 3 months later, and the reason I won that job is because I was able to turn it around really quickly at a good price for her client. So it was an investment property, and I turned it around within 48 hours. And to be absolutely honest, when I reflect now, you've just got to press go, you've just got to do it, and our work is of a much higher standard now, and I kind of cringe a little bit when I look back at what I was doing at the start, but I think everybody, even the industry as a whole, when you first start, is where we've come to now. It's amazing.
Oh, about the lens.
Yeah, I didn't even use the lance on my first job. I had one, and I just felt it was on the floor, and I just felt like it was too low, and I felt like it looked really ridiculous, and so I took it away, and now in hindsight, what a stupid decision that was. I'm not ringing for a sales pitch, and I think that's the biggest factor to consider. You're not ringing to sell yourself, you're ringing to have a conversation. All agents people, they're normal people. So don't approach it as a sales pitch. They're sales professionals, they'll see straight through it. You're ringing just to have a chat. At the end of the day, my aim was just to put my name, Foxy's name, in the back of their head, so that at the time, when the time came that they needed a stylist, that's right, Foxy's, or if we were a couple that day, it just so happened they needed a quote. So that was the point of it. It's not to sell something, I'm just ringing to say hi.
And what about pricing when you started?
Oh, yeah. So
How did you know what to charge?
So to be honest, because we were hiring our stock, purchased all the small stuff, hiring the bigger stuff. So we literally priced ourselves identical to the people who we were hiring from, plus 30%. So that 30% then allowed us to have, obviously, some profit, but then some wiggle room when it came to me switching around stock, all that sort of thing. It allowed us to pay the overheads, etc. So we just priced exactly the same, and then, but when I came to the crunch and I looked at how we were priced compared to other people who owned all of their stock, we were priced significantly higher, and we were producing a product that was the same. So that's when we decided that we needed to purchase our own stock, and that's where we sort of have gone from there.
How much knowledge of styling did you have, and then how much knowledge do you think someone getting started actually needs?
Alright, so I get asked this question a lot as to whether or not someone should go and do an interior design course, if they go to studies the Interior Institute of Home Staging course, do they need that education background? And my answer is no. For styling, for home styling specifically, I don't believe that you need it. I don't have an education. I don't have formal qualifications in it. So we got into the industry by doing developments ourselves. We subdivided a couple of blocks, renovated a front property. I designed smaller homes in the back, and we paid for people to come and have those styled. We also sold a couple of investment properties that I'd had other stylists come and style for me. And that was my introduction to property styling. But styling itself, it's all about first impressions. So you need to get it key from the front door. There's less to consider. There's the buyer psychology, all those colours that you should and shouldn't use, trends, all that sort of stuff. But there's not that's the design of the aspect to consider for the client's opinions, and if you're doing an interior design, for example, the flow of the home, the use of the home, the function of the home. Whereas property styling is all around first impressions, and I believe formal qualifications mean significantly less, and particularly if you're owning the business, I reckon just get it and go. At the start, it wasn't about us being prepared and having a warehouse full of stock. It was literally lock in a job, so I locked in Scrub Road and I went shopping that night. Thank God it was a Thursday. And I was actually still shopping on the day of the install. Went and bought my steamer, went and bought pots and stuff like that on the day of the install. Then we took the profits from that job and then we bought the next job, Greendale Way. It was a bigger property, so I did more shopping that day. It was literally taking the profits from one and then using that to fund the next. And there was a lot of shopping at the start. I used a lot of local suppliers. We did lots of like giftware stores, Target, Big W, Pillow Talk, Adairs. And it wasn't until a couple months in that I actually started using wholesale suppliers and bulk buying stock. So there was a lot of shopping, but it was each job as I went.
Okay, back to Jake at the warehouse here. He's going to wrap this conversation up with a few points.
I think the thing that I want to make the clearest is everything you do needs to be about getting that first job. And it's hard. It's all about the work that goes into getting that first job. Everything else is secondary. The thing about getting your first job is it's not going to be an easy thing to get it because you're coming from a place of no experience and you're trying to convince somebody that they should spend thousands of dollars with you. It's going to be difficult to get that first job. But the reality is once you get it, you can then leverage that because you've done a good job for the agent. Hopefully, you're learning. All of that stuff comes from doing your first job. You don't get that until you actually start getting the experience. Obviously, things like your logistics, your truck, your delivery team, all of that you're gonna have to figure out. But again, I wouldn't even worry about that until the job's locked in. There's plenty of companies, you can always go and find somebody when you're ready. And yeah, that's not time well spent before you get that first job. To kind of sum it up, I'm going to make a very kind of blatant statement, and that is that when you're starting your home staging business, any time that is not spent on specifically on getting ready for that first job or for trying to get that first job, to me that's time wasted. Now, I'm going to soften that a little bit because obviously there's things that need to happen in the background, but I've put it that bluntly to make a point that in the early days, the hardest thing, the first thing that you need to try and do is to get that first job because everything else comes from that. You've got your first job, your first handful of jobs. There's a whole lot of other things then, steps 2, 3, 4, 5, etc. I'm not going to go into too much detail because again, I think it's all about that step one, getting the work. But obviously things like building your brand, your social media, your website, all of those things now you can start thinking about once you get to that point. And longer term, it's about building that reputation of brand and relationships with agents. All of those things are very important. But the important thing that I want to get across is that those things only happen in the start if they're in service of getting that first work. So they need to come later.
There it is. You've now heard from Jake and Phoebe. Less planning and more doing. I hope you found this video useful. Don't let the conversation end here though. We want to hear your thoughts, and if you've got any questions, leave them down in the comments below. Thanks so much for watching, and we will see you back here next week.